Yo, what up guys, Travic here, and lately I have been playing a Vigilant Strike Commander build, and I've been having the absolute time of my life. You can see the build up playing before you, and this build has been able to do all kinds of crazy content, and I've been able to do all types of tier 17 maps, and I've been having the absolute time of my life. The Legacy of Phrecia event, or Phrecia event, has been just this absolute crazy fiasco of idols and new builds and weird ascendancies and all kinds of things that I wasn't expecting. I originally started the build playing Lightning Strike Whisperer. I was doing some things, I was having a good time. I moved over to Penance Brand, and I was just kind of bored playing Penance Brand because, you know, you're doing the same thing you're doing in Settlers. We've had Settlers forever, so I reached out to a couple of friends and I looked for a new option. And a buddy of mine, Reality, was just like, hey man, there's this Vigilant Strike build that I've seen. This guy's playing it on YouTube. There's like 3 people playing it on PoE Ninja. I don't know if it's bait, but it could be something really cool to check out. So we watched this video, we go on PoE Ninja, we check the build out, and immediately from watching the video, I was hooked and started putting it together. And the end result is, well, I'm not even nowhere near the end result. The end result has just been this evolving mess of a character that I have just absolutely adored and loved every step of the way. I have been able to play it and do all the content. I've been able to farm tier 17s with my eyes closed. I have just been able to, like, you can see this is a Wisp powered boss on a tier 17 map, and we just like blow it up with Headhunter, no problem. And everything just goes insanely smooth. Like you see here, like we just stand still and just blow everything up because Headhunter's busted and the whole build is insane. This build fully relies on endurance charges, and you eventually get up to 16 endurance charges, and it's crazy. But enough of this, let's see and show and talk about where we did and how we got here. Originally, thanks to Reality, I was linked this video, and as you can see, this gentleman is playing the Vigilant Strike build. He goes in, he just starts one-tapping Beast and all the stuff, and everything here looked great. And this was the video that I watched. I'm gonna include it for you down below in the comment section. And this gentleman is just like completely blowing up Beast, no problem at all. And he's just cruising. And once I saw this, we started doing some research, and we moved on over to go check out PoE Ninja. When I went on PoE Ninja about 4 or 5 days ago, this gentleman here was playing it, and his gear and damage was just leaps and bounds above everybody else. So I clicked on his profile and I started to do some research. I looked at day 1 of the league to see what he was doing, to see like, is this Vigilant Strike just a thing? Is it a meme? Is it a joke? And I just kind of like, you know, did a little bit of research because I didn't know if the gentleman in the video is the same gentleman that's here. By day 3, this guy had Vigilant Strike on. His gear looked amazing. His damage looked respectable. And I was very, very, very intrigued. So I started to just kind of go through and look at what he was doing. And eventually it gets to this stage where you're just like, what the heck is going on? So I get to this part of his gearing, and I'm looking at this gear and I say, I can do this, I can copy this, I can try this out. I have the funds to see if it's bait or not. And I put his week 1 variant together, and it starts to slap. And then I notice there are changes, there are updates, things are moving around. I'm talking to other people. I find out some of my friends are playing Vigilant Strike, and I'm just watching the evolution of this build go from like week 1 to week 2 to synthesized ring, to different links in the weapon, to putting on the utmost, to going to this crazy snapshot where it's just like, just a ton of damage. Like he's just leaps and bounds above everybody else. So I start playing it, I'm having a good time. My buddy Hitoke plays it, he puts it together, he's just cruising and kicking butt. My buddy Mendo puts it together on a budget of like 15, 20 divs with Headhunter. He's cruising through tier 17 content, and the build is just completely and utterly blowing everything out of the water. Now, the way that it works is it works off of Vigilant Strike. Vigilant Strike says that attack enemies with a powerful melee strike which grants fortification, reducing damage you take from hits. This cooldown can be bypassed by extending an endurance charge requires a melee weapon. So if we stack a bunch of endurance charges, we can use the endurance charges to hit the enemy for more attack damage per endurance charge. Currently, we're doing 16% more damage per endurance charge. We then scale that up with quality from Dialas. We scale that up with quality from Ashes of the Stars, and we stack a bunch of endurance charges. Currently, right now, I have 16 endurance charges. I have 2 endurance charges, or I will have 2 endurance charges from the weapon. We did indeed craft the same weapon that he has. We have 2 endurance charges from our rings, so it's 2 on the weapon, 3, 4, 5 from the boots, 6, 7, 8 naturally from the Ascendancy, 9 on the Atlas tree, or the passive tree here, 10 on the passive tree somewhere else down there, 11 over there, 12 from a Forbidden Flame and Flesh, 13 from a Sublime Vision, and 14, 15, and 16 because we are playing the Ancestral Commander Ascendancy, and we just get to 16 charges. I don't think you can get to 16 charges in regular Path of Exile, so you can really stack the damage quite high on this character, and it just is completely and utterly crazy. Endurance charges are also giving us reduced PDR, I believe it is, and reduced elemental damage, so they're doing a whole lot for the build in terms of like survivability. Now, the way that it is played via PoE Ninja is with Mage Blood. I have opted to use Headhunter because I like playing with Headhunter. I think Mage Blood is a fantastic build, but I've opted for Headhunter, and the build in itself is doing fantastic. So let's talk about the gear. The gearing and the way that it works is we're using an Eventuality Rod. And the reason why we're using an Eventuality Rod is it is a weapon, is a 2-handed War Staff, and the base from Heist grants you +1 maximum power and endurance charges. So we're able to get that extra endurance charge, and we make a nice big Fizz staff. The weapon I have here is fractured with physical damage. It's essence physical damage for flat, it's hybrid percent, and it's a little bit of attack speed with crafted on strength and int, and a little bit of crit. This weapon right here is 1000 DPS. My old weapon, which my buddy Mendo has, was 800 DPS. My buddy Skadoosh has a weapon that's 600 DPS, and they're going through the progression of gearing just fine. You don't need a 1000 DPS weapon off the bat, but this is where you start to like really notice your damage and your character starting to get up there. This weapon, as you saw, will eventually be replaced by a Shaper base to add the additional endurance charge, and we still go through with the straight Fizz weapon with good attack speed. Currently in the setup we have now, my links are Blood Rage with Mark on Hit support, Molten Shell, Assassin's Mark, Life Tap, and Enhance 4. Eventually, I would like to upgrade what I have to copy the gentleman here because I feel like this is very good, where we have the Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity, Determination, Vow, Molten Shell. But this is like a progression thing. I don't have the Enlightened 4 yet, but eventually I would like to get here. The Herald of Purity adds a whole lot of extra damage, so if you do have Enlightened 4 sitting around and you are considering trying this, I would definitely copy this 6-link setup. Our body armor, we are indeed using Dialas. I have one with a reduced extra damage from critical strikes, and the one that I bought had 6% maximum life. At the time when I searched for this body armor, this was the cheapest one on the market, and I ended up buying it. It's probably more than likely better to get it without the life roll on it so that you can use the life from the passive tree mastery, and the Dialas isn't very expensive. I mean, there's only a few of them right now. There are a ton of them available offline, but at the time of recording, there's just not a whole lot of them on the trade site right now. We're using Dialas for 2 very important reasons. One, quality stacks to the moon on this build, and we want to really take advantage of the extra quality that it has to offer. All of our skills with quality or extra quality deal a lot of extra damage. So we use 5 green sockets to put quality in all of our stuff, except for the 1 red socket here for endurance charge on melee stun, because the extra quality doesn't do anything, so we're not really too worried about it. The links in our weapons, we are using a 2120 Vigilant Strike. This is giving us that 16% more attack damage per endurance charge. We're using a multi-strike support. Eventually, I would like to upgrade this to Awaken multi-strike. We have endurance charge on melee stun to get 4% more damage per endurance charge. We have Awaken elemental damage with attack support. This being level 5 allows us to be immune to reflected elemental damage. Very, very, very important. We have Awaken Ancestral Call to be able to target and strike nearby enemies and to deal more damage. And the quality on this allows us to strike further away so we can get that really awesome hit across the screen feeling. And lastly, we have Awakened Fire Pen. This is to allow us to do a little bit more damage until we upgrade our gear to the next level. Eventually what will happen is Awakened Fire Pen, I believe, comes out and we put in Enhance 4 or Enhance 5 when we make that big, large jump to the next stages of damage. But the current setup that I have right now literally hits everything, kills everything, everything blows up. And I've even tested like Rogue Exiles, and we're just about at the cusp where we're super comfortable doing it. And I don't know how much more I'm going to change. I'm probably going to change a lot. I'm really enjoying the build. Our gloves, we are using just a pair of strength-based gloves. We did get them with Fractured Life on them. The reason we did with Fractured Life is so I didn't have to worry about the prefixes of the gloves. In our suffixes, we are using Chaos Resistance, Accuracy Rating, and Attack Speed. And the way that we did this was we rolled our gloves with an Envy Essence, a Deafening Essence of Envy, until we hit Accuracy Rating. We then locked our suffixes, reforged attack speed to try to hit tier 1 attack speed. We hit tier 2, we ran out of money, we settled. Our prefixes, we do have a veiled mod for melee strike range. I was originally going for fire damage convert, but I did indeed miss. I hit the melee strike range, I left it on. Ideally, we would get +2 to auras or something else that would be really nice, but this is where we're at right now. Our Eldritch Implicits, because we missed the Veiled Orb and Veiled Orbs were so expensive, we had to go with physical damage converted to fire because we are 100% fizz to fire convert in this build, and we had to get that all the way up to perfect so that we were able to get the whole fizz conversion. The rest of the physical conversion comes from 2 places. One, we get 40% in our passive tree, and then we get 25% from the crafted bench craft from our hideout. And that gives us, 60% here, 40% on the tree, gives us the 100% convert. In our gloves, we have an Enlighten 3 support, which is what we're using to get a lot of our auras on. As I mentioned, I would like to eventually have Enlighten 4 so I can move the auras to the weapon, but we have an Arctic Armor here that gives us more, more of a big defensive layer. We take less physical damage from hits while we're stationary. We take less fire damage while we're stationary. We chill enemies. We're immune to freeze. It is just overall a really good support gem. We have Herald of Ash for just more damage and gives us those beautiful explosions that you saw in the video. And we have Determination to give us an extra amount of armor. And we're using Determination in combination with the Sublime Vision to give us an extra endurance charge. Our belt, Headhunter. Headhunter at the time of recording is relatively cheap. They're about 18 divines. I know somebody's gonna be like, oh my God, that's not cheap. Headhunters in the past, when I started playing Path of Exile, were hundreds of divines and it was crazy. If you're looking for an alternate budget option for Headhunter, or you're looking for alternate budget options, period, this gentleman, who I have included down in the description, has a wide variety of different gear on at different stages that he put it on. And you could see the progression of gear that was taken to get to the stages that we're at now. And he even used something as simple as the Magnate to just get damage in and make the adjustments there. Our boots, we're using Ralakesh. We're using Ralakesh so that we always have endurance charges on. We always have power charges on for our crit chance and crit everything. And we have frenzy charges for more attack speed. Ralakesh are just really, really, really important. We do need to spend endurance charges to attack. We will generate manual endurance charges. You will see that number in the map or while you're playing it constantly tick up, and they will get expended with Vigilant Strike. Our boots have phase run in them with automation so that we can always just move all around really quick and phase run. And then we have Urgent Orders and Enduring Cry. We're using Enduring Cry for 2 really good reasons. One, it's generating an endurance charge per 5 power, and it's giving us a little bit of life regen. So if you don't have endurance charges, or you get this really weird spot where you're trying to attack and your character won't attack because you haven't generated an endurance charge, you could just press Enduring Cry and it'll generate you an endurance charge so you can really just start snowballing out of control. Our helmet, we are using a Giant Slayer helmet. We did fracture on the Abyssal Socket. My original helmet did not start like this with an Abyssal Socket, but eventually we upgraded to an Abyssal Socket. We fractured the Abyssal Socket so that we can put an Abyssal Jewel in our helmet, and this jewel is allowing us to get 46% chance to avoid being shocked. We craft the helmet with essences to get more chance to be shocked. And in a combination between the essence plus the helmet with the socket, we are 100% chance to avoid being shocked. And this is how we get our ailment immunity thanks to Storm Shroud. Our helmet, we had to roll until we hit intelligence. Intelligence is a stat that we really, really, really need on this build. we need to make sure that we have enough int to equip the weapon, as we need 117. So you can either get int on the helmet or int on the ring. I opted for int on the helmet for now. Our helmet prefixes are just relatively simple: max life, increased armor, more max life. The sockets on the helmet is faster attacks, void manipulation, and leap slam. Since we are 100% fizz to fire convert, we need to have a way to not deal elemental damage when we jump with leap slam, so we stick in void manipulation to deal no elemental damage. It's just a little quirky way to not die while leap slamming around if you want to roll if you want to just like play in a reflect map. You can also put in the awaken elemental damage level 5, but that's just a very costly thing. Our amulet, we are using Ashes of the Stars. Ashes gives us +1 level to all skill gems and 30% quality. Quality is very, very, very important on this build, and we really want to take advantage of it. We're anointing our amulet with Cyan's Ambitions. This says strike skills which target enemies can do so from 40% away. That's this hidden node here, which is a prismatic oil, a blue oil, and a black oil. Outside of that, we do have a synthesized ring. We are using a synthesized ring so that we can use the extra endurance charge from the ring, and that we can craft the ring the way we want. If you don't have access to a synthesized ring, as you saw in the PoE Ninja, I was also doing this where I was using Comb Sign for the extra endurance charge to get the ball rolling. My old ring, before I used to use this 2 ring combo here, my old ring was indeed Rupture Coil here, this Amethyst ring with just chaos resistance, intelligence, some elemental attack damage with skills, and some life on it. These were the 2 rings that I used until I was able to afford the synthesized ring for maximum endurance charges. These max endurance charge synthesized rings are pretty pricey, and they will run you a hefty penny. You do not need it to do all the content. It is an aspirational item. Currently, at the time of recording, there are a handful of them for about 150, 160 divines. If you do manage to get the synthesized ring, you do reflect it with a Calandra's Touch. My ring, I'm opting for all of my resistances on my ring. We have chaos resistance, lightning resistance, and all elemental resistances, and we have tier 1 life and tier 1 maximum energy shield, which we managed to accidentally hit, and then reduce cost of skills so that our overall skill cost is just 23. That's it for the skills. It's very straightforward. Our flask, we're using a prismatic tincture to just have a ton of elemental penetration. Every time I'm fighting a mob that doesn't die right away, I press my 1 button, the tincture goes on, I hit the mob, and it just completely explodes, and this is the best damage DPSing thing you can ever do. We're using a silver flask with increased elemental resistances. We are indeed relatively close to elemental cap. I press this, and then I press my 4 button, and we are LE capped. We have a diamond flask with increased duration, increased critical strike chance. We do get crit capped with everything, which is really, really, really nice. Our bismuth flask is increased duration and movement speed, and we're using a quicksilver flask for rarity and movement speed. If you want, you can put on the mage blood and just adjust your flask accordingly to mage blood. If you're using the mage blood, you can also use a flask suffix for shock avoidance, so you don't have to fracture the abyssal socket on your helmet. Our tree is a little interesting and pretty straightforward. We are choosing Ancestral Commander for 2 major reasons. 1, we get the maximum endurance charges, and 2, we get the ability to have strike skills to target an additional enemy 50% further away. Non-val strike skills also target another enemy. This allows us to hit really, really, really far. Plus, this gives us a whopping 90% additional range, and we can just hit from a bajillion miles away. We're also getting our action speed, movement speed to not move below base value, so this allows us to do a whole wide variety of tier 17 map mods without having to worry, because we are never slowed down. And armor from your body armor is doubled, which, because we're using Dialas, doesn't really matter. And the last one, which is the absolute hugest defensive layer, is Ancestral Defiance. We gain 15% of missing unreserved life before being hit by an enemy, and this is just an absolutely fantastic defensive layer. The rest of our skill tree is pretty straightforward. We take Heart of the Warrior for just more life and more strength. We tattoo every single node that we could possibly tattoo. We grab every single close to be jewel socket to put things in, and we're just taking a wide variety of other things. Right now, you see we have this wheel right here at below the duelist section. We are using a Lethal Pride. You can put in any lethal pride that would affect these nodes to give you good things. You're looking for things like double damage, melee crit multi, some strength, some life, intimidate. There are ways to search for timeless jewels. There's a way to do it inside of POB, and there's a timeless jewel calculator, which I'll include in the description down below. And just look for really cool things. Mine right now has crit multi, strength, crit multi, intimidate, double damage, and attack damage leech with life. So it's just a pretty straightforward jewel. As far as everything else on the tree goes, we take Discipline of the Unyielding to get more endurance charge damage and, chance to gain endurance charge on kill. Charge Mastery for 3% increased damage per endurance, power, and frenzy charges, and we have a ton of charges going on. We come on over here for Tribal Fury for melee strike skills, deal splash damage. We take the Mastery so our monsters cannot block our attack. We grab Bloodless so enemies can't leech from us so that we can indeed kill them. We grab Eagle Eye for our accuracy with an accuracy mastery because accuracy is a big pain in the butt. We have Unwavering Stance so that we cannot be stunned and enemies cannot avoid our, we can't avoid enemy attacks, but we don't care. We kill them anyways, but we just don't want to be stunned. We're coming on over here to the Endurance Charge. We get the Endurance Charge there as well. And in this jewel socket, we have a Watcher's Eye. We are using a double determination Watcher's Eye. The first mod being additional physical damage reduction while affected by determination, and the second mod being reduced extra damage from critical strikes while affected by determination. Since we can only have one aura because we have Sublime Vision on, determination is our aura of choice. The 50% reduced critical strike damage from determination combined with the 50% from the Dialas is what's indeed giving us the 100% critical strike reduction. We take Barbarisms to get extra max life, fire resistance, and maximum fire resistance. We're grabbing Disemboweling for crit strike, crit multi, and all these little nodes to give us extra crit strike, crit multi. Battle Trance for a bunch of extra rage and rage on melee hit. And then we come on over here to the Staff Wheel. The Staff Wheel is doing two very important things. One, it's giving us critical strike chance with staves. This is how we get closer and closer and closer to that 100%. We do get crit cap. You will be crit capped. And if you're not crit capped, Headhunter will crit cap you. You're going to gain 10% chance to gain an endurance charge on melee critical strike, which is really nice. So you're constantly gaining endurance charges and you have counterweight for just more crit multi. On the wheel above us, we take the Elemental Mastery to treat monster elemental resistances as inverted. You sure as heck know when it inverts because you hit the mob, it hits really hard, and then you hit it even harder and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Divine Fury for 5% of extra fire damage as fire damage penetrates 5%. And then we have Divine Wrath for 5% fizz as lightning to give us the ability to shock. We take the Endurance Charge here, and then we have the Sublime Vision for Determination. The Sublime Vision for Determination, when I bought mine, was roughly 100 divs. Looking now, there are, I guess, none currently available at the time of recording, but there's a ton of them offline as of a few hours ago for about 40-50 divs. So hopefully in the morning or when you're watching this, if you choose to do this, you will be able to get a Sublime Vision without a lot of problems. At the time of recording too, the Watcher's Eye for the mods that we need are available. There's one for 18 divs. Offline, there's a whole bunch of them for 10 and 11 divs. I chose to record this video at an awkward time, so the market's a little weird at the time of recording. I'm sure these items will exist, hopefully, knock on wood, if you choose to look for them. Now, lastly, we have a Fire Mastery wheel down here. This Fire Mastery wheel is what allows us to have the 40% physical damage converted to fire, and we get a bunch of penetration and increased fire damage with skills. That's really the tree and the basics of the tree. We do have a bunch of jewel sockets outside of that. To get to these jewel sockets, we have a couple of things going on. One, we have a large cluster jewel for Fuel the Fight, Smite the Weak, and Sure-Footed Striker. Sure-Footed Striker gives us the ability to have 40% critical strike damage with two-handed weapons and 5% chance to deal double damage if you dealt a critical strike with a two-handed melee weapon recently. And then Fuel the Fight gives us attack speed and leeching mana and damage or more damage while leeching. The Smite the Weak is used to put the node in the back so that we can have the two nodes up front relatively simple. We are using a Forbidden Flame and Flesh combo. This Forbidden Flame and Flesh is really strong. And if you don't know what this Forbidden Flame and Flesh does, we can actually just kind of back out on PoE Ninja or on Path of Building, and we could take a look at Unflinching. Unflinching grants us a 30% chance to get an endurance charge when we're hit, a 25% chance that if you were to gain endurance charge, you get your maximum charges, and you gain 1 endurance charge every second if you've been hit recently. So if you've been hit, unflinching constantly gives you endurance charges to spend for our skill. It also gives us +1 maximum endurance charge. These Unforbidden Flames and Fleshes, when I bought them, were really pricey. At the time of recording, they're about 50, 60, 70 divs for the red side, and the blue side is about 70, 80 divs. They are really nice. You don't need them right away. It's just more damage and more survivability. The second cluster jewel that we have over here is Graceful Execution, Martial Prowess, and Sure-Footed Striker. Sure-Footed is the critical strike one. Martial Prowess is attack damage, attack speed, accuracy, and increased damage with elements from attacks. And Graceful Execution gives us attack speed with 2-handed melee weapons, accuracy with 2-handed melee weapons, critical strike chance, dex, and int. We do use 1 medium cluster for pressure points and quick getaway. Quick getaway giving us attack speed and cast speed, movement speed and critical strike chance, and pressure points giving us critical strikes to have a chance to deal double damage and more critical strike chance. Our jewels that go in the regular jewel sockets that are not unique are relatively straightforward. You're going to use Storm Shroud with Corrupted Blood if possible, so that you can have elemental ailment immunity. The Storm Shroud, like I had mentioned earlier, with our helmet plus the Abyssal socket, gives us the ability to be ailment immune. If you don't have the helmet with the Abyssal socket, you can use a flask. And then we have a Balance of Terror. I haven't fully utilized this Balance of Terror yet because I need to upgrade and change my links on my gear, which I'll eventually get around to. So I had the Balance of Terror put in for the elemental resistance so that I can get LE capped or really close to LE cap. If you want, what you can do is you can take out the Void Manipulation for elemental weakness, and you can go around in your map and cast LE weakness every once in a while to get more physical damage with attacks. I do fully plan on putting in the LE weakness links. I have it in my gear, and I'm letting you guys know about it from now because it is a very big damage boost when you put it in. The gentleman that I am looking at and have been taking, like, pretty much just kind of like copying what he does, also has it in his snapshot of his gear. He does indeed run it. It's with his mark on hit, life tap support, so you can do this. He puts it in his boots, and like I said, this is down below for you, and you guys can take a look at this to see how you guys want to do it yourself. If you don't have access to this Balance of Terror, just get yourself a nice jewel with a little bit of resistances, and you'll be pretty much good to go. My last jewel here is just increased attack speed with 2-handed melee weapons, crit multi with melee weapons, and mana per enemy hit, so we get a little bit of extra mana while we're going. I originally didn't have the mana per enemy hit, but when I put it in, it made things a little bit smoother because you hit so many enemies so often. It just gave you that little extra bit of comfort wiggle room to work around with. But overall, that's the entire tree. That's the character. The character has been an absolute blast to play. I am very grateful for this event and the ability to play with really quirky, crazy, wild, different ascendancies. And it's just been something that after this event, I don't think we'll be able to play this again, or if we do, it won't be anywhere near as good. So I fully plan on just playing this character, getting it some more gear, getting it some more upgrades. And as you saw earlier in this video, we made ourselves just a huge stick to just beat the heck out of everything. If you choose to go down this route and make this weapon, or you are going to play this character and you have questions about how to craft this weapon, leave a comment down below. Be more than happy to help you guys or give you guys a little bit of direction on how we made it. This weapon cost me about 210-ish divines to make. There's a gentleman earlier in chat who banged it out for 40 divs. So it depends on how lucky or unlucky you get with recombinating and reforging influence and, you know, slamming things on. And then, you know, he got to the point where he needed the endurance charge, and that was another 100 divs. So I mean, he took him like $140. But yeah, that's that. But for now, friends, I wanted to get this video out to you guys. I wanted to show you this cool character I'm playing and kind of get it out there. A lot of you guys have asked me about the PUB. You guys have asked me how it works. And it's just something that I'm going to be putting out there for you guys. If you ever want to keep up to date with my characters or how I'm doing things or what my plan is, you can always pull my profile inside of Path of Building. And to do this, you will literally go back from the beginning, hit new, hit import and export. My character profile is there. You would hit start, and then you could pick the league that we're playing in and click on the character and import the passive tree and the items and skills and see roughly where we're at and do all the configurations. I will put my POB without the configuration set up, but the basics of what it looks like. So you guys will have that down below just to kind of see what's going on. And that's just everything that we're at. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far in the video, please leave a like, a comment, do all that fun stuff. The algorithm and myself would both really appreciate it, and it's a very big help to the channel. And if you have any other cool things or cool magic finding or strats or something you want me to check out or builds that you want me to see, please don't hesitate to let me know both in the Discord, on the stream, in the comments. I like hearing from you guys and what's going on. So if you have anything cool, please feel free to share. But for now, friends, I'm going to get this video out to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.